We are here in Treforest with Richard Hughes, who runs the Grog Shop here, and it is absolutely remarkable. Richard, you paint everything out there and make everything out there yourself. When did this start up?
It started back in the early 60s when my dad decided to give up work and just start making things out of clay. We don't know why, he just had this crazy idea in his head. And he bought a bag of clay, made a kiln in his back garden, and things went from there. So it was a bit of a strange thing for someone to do in Pontypridd. But here we are, 56 years later, we're still doing it, yeah.
It's still going strong as well. The Hall of Fame out in the front shows a whole host of the Welsh rugby team and other teams indeed popping in.
Yeah, the rugby thing didn't kick in straight away with Dad. It was 1969, I think he made his first rugby players, because it was an obvious thing to do. Before that, it was characters from the Old Testament and the Mabinogion. But yeah, the rugby thing took over then, because Wales in the 70s obviously went through the decade of the dragon, and you know, it just fitted hand in glove really. So yeah, and from that point on, yeah, people from all over the world have come here, and that's what we love to do, is to see rugby players. Yeah.
So you replaced biblical characters with, I presume you would suggest, other biblical characters.
Yeah, exactly. And the giants in the Mabinogion became giants of Welsh rugby, so it does fit. Yeah, it's very appropriate. And of course, then across the world, you know, because we've got quite a lot of Irish players in the shop, and All Blacks, and so yeah, it's just all encompassing really.
What is this area like in terms of being a rugby heartland then? I mean, you can't walk past the street without seeing this shop jump out at you.
No, I know. It's a big red and green converted pub. People from the Southern Hemisphere think the grog shop is an off license, because to them that's what grog is. So they come in here, they're immediately disappointed, but then they see all this stuff and they're blown away by it. But yeah, being born and raised in Pontypridd, when we used to have a great side, you know, we used to be competing highly in European rugby and winning cups and trophies, which is sadly gone now, but we got the regional system instead. But yeah, it's all we think about is rugby. You know, we eat, sleep and drink it, yeah.
This is Tom Jones territory as well, right?
Yeah, Tom, he was born in the street behind us in Laura Street in Treforest, so we're technically in Treforest, not Pontypridd. The line is just up there. So wherever we go in the world and we tell them where we're from, some people don't even know where Wales is. But they always know who Tom Jones is. So we say, yeah, you know Tom Jones? Yeah. Well, he was born in the street behind where we live. They get it straight away, yeah. So we love Tom, yeah.
It's an unbelievable, I'd say, moment of pride when you tell people about where you're from, such a small area to have produced somebody so world renowned.
Yeah, well, and the national anthem was written in Pontypridd as well.
Right.
So there's Tom, national anthem, and Dad. And they've got some statues on the Taft Trail of my father and Evan James and Tom Jones. So that's the three things, yeah.
Right, okay.
I would proud of that. Yeah, we're absolutely really proud of that we're counted amongst such great people. Yeah.
Can I ask you quickly then about the process of making your models? How long does it take? And I guess what is the secret to making them, or is there a sort of difficulty still these days, or at this stage of making them, are you like bashing them out pretty easily at this point?
No, that's the big problem we've got at the moment. Well, not at the moment, it's been like that for about 30-40 years now, is although we count ourselves as being successful, we can't make enough stuff to keep everybody happy. So we've only got 5 painters. That's the difficult part. So I make the master figure, and I've been doing that since I was 17. So I make that, and then we make a mould from that about 6 to 8 weeks later, and we make a mould from that. But each piece comes out and is white, like you see these white pieces there. They have to be hand painted, everyone. There's no sort of quick way of doing that. And finding someone with the skill to do that is really difficult. So we've got 5 painters, and when you win a championship like we did, surprisingly last season, we didn't expect that. We made a figure of Alan win with the trophies, and that took one of our painters all year to paint those pieces. So, but you know, it's a good thing, but it's also a bad. It's kind of frustrating for me because I want to make new things every year, but I'm sort of adding to the problem because I'm always making new things, and then frustrated that we can't get them into production because there's no way of speeding up a handmade product. There's a lot of work that goes into each piece, but we wouldn't have it any other way really. We wouldn't want to mass produce anything. That's not what we're about. Yeah.
I presume then you're delighted when Wales succeed, but there's a part of you that thinks to yourself, this is going to be a busy year.
Yeah, we were panicking a bit that when the Lions went out to South Africa, that if Alan Wynne captained in the Lions, as he remarkably did after his injury, if they'd won that third test, and people would have expected us to do something to celebrate that. And we were in the middle of still celebrating winning the championship. So it would have been a lot of pressure. We'd have done it, but I don't know what I'd have done. But it's a strange problem to have. Yeah.
I presume you've crafted Alan Wynne Jones multiple times, thinking to yourself, well, this will be the last one, and then another 10 years go, and you're still making the same thing.
Up there, that's the first one with his long hair when he was just a back row forward then, and it's incredible what a career he's had, because he's changed as well physically. He was quite difficult to do when he was first on the scene, because his features were kind of like, I wouldn't say baby-faced, but he looked that kind of angelic. And now he's grown into his grog, really. He's much easier, and I love making Alan Wynne. He's got that 1,000-yard stare, and his face is getting craggier as he gets older, which is something I really enjoy. So I love making him, and we just made a new figure of him because he's broken the world record now for caps. So we've just remodeled him again. So yeah, I love making Alan Wynne.
Growing into his grog is such a great phrase. Who has the most grog-like natural features, and who was the most difficult one to try and make happen?
Well, the most groggy person we've ever met is Tommy David. Tommy is famous for playing in that Barbarian game, which is the anniversary of it next year, 50 years since that game took place. And Tommy had his famous battle with Grant Batty and was patting him on the head, and Tommy looked like a wild man. He had this long hair, big handlebar moustache, and he's what we call a classic grog. Anyone with a broken nose or a headband makes a great grog. But there have been a couple, Gavin Henson and Shane Williams. When Shane first started, he looked like a choir boy, and when I saw him, I knew he had talent. But I thought, oh no, I hope he does something. Which he did throughout his career. He changed things. He shaved his head and he grew different haircuts, which helped. And eventually I got to grips with him. The worst one was Barry John. Barry, I finally got to Barry this year. I've decided to remodel him because it's the 50th anniversary of his retirement in 1972. And I've done him again. But my dad couldn't do him. I tried to do him, and it was something I just couldn't capture. I mean, we've done him, but every time I look at those old grogs, I think, oh, it still wasn't right. So I've done him now, and you see the one in his Lions strip there. That's the latest one, and I think I've got him. And we sent it to Barry, and he said, I think they caught me now. He said, I think they finally caught me. So he was the worst, Barry. Yeah. But and Gavin was a special kind of challenge as well. Too handsome, but then I looked at him. I found a key to unlock his face, and I really enjoyed doing it. Actually, it was a challenge, but I really enjoyed it.
The works are absolutely brilliant. There's a David Hasselhoff one in here as well. So many of the great Euro 2016 team as well, and I presume that was a huge moment for you as well, where you were thinking to yourself, great for Wales, but oh my God, going to have to make an entire football team now.
Oh, the football, that was an incredible period in time. I did with Ashley and the boys and Gareth Bale, and we've been lucky enough to meet a lot of them. But what an experience that was, and football is something that we touch on occasionally. I mean, we've done George Best and other players over the years, but rugby always gets us sucked back into rugby. But when the Welsh team were doing what they were doing in Europe, it was amazing. And fingers crossed they'll be doing the same. And if they do, we'll be doing a few more footballers. Yeah.
Can you reveal to us what you're working on at the moment? I disturbed you from your work, by the way.
I can and I can't, because what I'm doing, I am doing 2 current Welsh players, but it's a secret because there's no point. Sad thing is if I tell people what we're doing, what I'm making, which I started in January in the new year, and then it doesn't come out because of our production issues. It's frustrating for them to know that figure is there, but it's in a queue waiting to be produced, which is where we find ourselves now. Right. So, yeah, the 2 current players, well deserved to be crogged. But, yeah, hopefully in a couple of weeks we'll be telling people who they are.
Good stuff. Because in a couple of weeks Wales will have won the Grand Slam, of course. That's what's happening here.
Oh, Jesus. Every year this starts. I tell you what, every year I get so screwed up. I don't know what to do, whether watch the game, hide from the game, find out the result before I watch it because my heart rate goes through the roof. And this weekend especially, no one's expecting much of Wales. We're going to go out to Dublin where we haven't won for quite a long time. And I don't know what's going to happen because we've picked an unusual team. It's got a bit of flair in it, but the experience now isn't what it was last year. But who knows? I mean, with people like Louis Samit in the side and Josh Adams, anything can happen. And of course, we saw chuffed for Dan being captain for the first time. It's going to be interesting, but Ireland, tough team. I mean, I would imagine they're probably favourites to win the championship this year. But as I said, last year was such a crazy. I mean, there were games that you thought you knew what was going to happen, and it didn't happen. It's like Scotland beating France at the end, which handed the championship to Wales. Yeah. Thank you very much, Scotland. Didn't see that coming, and Scotland beating England in Twickenham for the first time since the early 80s. So shocks all around. I think it'll be the same thing this year. I don't think you can call it really.
No, for sure. Well, Richard, very best of luck. I hope business booms for you over the next little while. To a certain extent, I hope I'll get the job in this weekend, of course. Thanks a million for letting us come in and have a look at your workshop, and we'll let you get back to work. Thanks a million.
No worries. Thank you very much.